Hi everyone, Mistany Outtano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And in this video, I'm going to be listing out what I felt were 15 of the most underappreciated, underrated albums of 2017. A list of records that I thought were special, unique, interesting, enjoyable, and didn't quite get the praise, didn't quite get the positive reviews, didn't quite get the warm reception that I hoped that they would. Some of these records didn't even really get that much praise from yours truly, because I might have even kind of missed out on them. I'm hoping to kind of remedy that problem before the year is completely over. But given the relative silence on a lot of these albums, I'm not expecting that to change anytime soon. Hence, this list exists. Ever since this album dropped, I cannot say enough nice things about it. Uncommon NASA's Written at Night is easily one of the best conceptual and intriguing and dark and kind of tortured mentally hip-hop records that I've heard this year. It is deeply political, creatively produced. It's got that grimy, lo-fi, experimental, abstract New York sound. The feature list on this thing is fantastic, and Uncommon NASA really kind of guides them into the lyrical concepts of a lot of these tracks, so they add to the narrative of the concept of the album. I can see why this album isn't going to resonate with everybody. It's a little odd, it's a little left field, it's a little fringe, it's a little off the beaten path, but if you consider yourself a fan of lyrical hip-hop, of experimental hip-hop, of hip-hop that challenges more than it panders, then please listen to this record. I could definitely see why this new Oxbow record is not resonating with everybody instantaneously. It doesn't quite have the sound of a lot of the band's classic material, plus on top of it, it is a difficult record to kind of wrap your mind around. I myself took a while to kind of warm up to it, even though I wasn't really sure as to how I felt about it 100% when I initially heard the thing. I knew there was something kind of weird and intriguing about it that I needed to revisit. There's definitely something to the lavish and wonderful and dense string sections on this thing, the very steady grooves, the awesome guitar tone on this thing, dynamic playing, and of course on top of that, you have Eugene Robinson's vocal performances, which are incredible. Like, the dude stylistically is all over the place. These hushed whispers, the aggression, the animated character and vibe to his voice. Like, he's a man of 1,000 voices on this thing. He's just hard to pin down. And every performance that he delivers on a track is dramatic, is compelling, is creepy, is frightening, is primal, is theatrical. I know it's a bit of a slow burner, and it isn't going to necessarily pop out at a lot of listeners at first, but if you give this album patience, I promise that it does give back in dividends. Given the title of this project and just how bold the album cover is, I'm kind of surprised that I just let this slip by me entirely, but this is a loud, crazy, abrasive, insane, and totally over the top and like gargantuan experimental industrial record with just like so much pent up rage and animalistic ferocity that I don't know, man, I'm kind of in awe of the vibe of it. I still feel like I don't 100% know as to whether or not I love or just kind of have generally positive feelings toward this thing, but it is kind of nutso, and that about it I do really admire. This Angles 9 album, to my ears, has been one of the most colorful and direct and creative experimental jazz albums I've heard in a while. Like, there's something really odd about it, yet simultaneously, like, it was kind of a breeze to listen to. I haven't quite put my finger on what exactly kind of makes it seem so experimental, yet so easy to just kind of take that boldness in and enjoy it. Like, it didn't come off to me as being like super perplexing or anything. Yeah, it's something I still need to kind of get more acclimated to myself, and I definitely do want to do a review of this thing. But if you are a jazz fan and you are looking for some jazz that is not, you know, your average jazz record, please do give this thing a shot. Alex Cameron's Forced Witness is easily one of the most fun pop records I've heard this year. Like, goddamn, this dude His lyrics are absolutely hilarious. And I think in a lot of ways, now that I've had more time to kind of take in the entirety of the record, it really kind of gets down to the hilarity and the flaws of masculinity as kind of a concept or a social norm. A lot of the time, the character that he plays on this record comes off like a lovable and a hilarious creep. So there's a strong lyrical and narrative component. It's like a long, ongoing character portrait that Alex is pulling together on this record, but that's just kind of the verbal side of things. On this record, the production has this wonderful, splashy, catchy, like 80s synth pop soft rock vibe to it that is incredibly infectious. I mean, obviously the aesthetic is fun. The aesthetic is a little gimmicky. It's sweet. It's a tried and true sound, and it's pulled together well. I wish there was more guitar in the mix, but still, it's pulled together well. Ultimately, though, it's the songwriting that really sells the record. The fact that the hooks on this thing really pop. The little instrumental additions on this thing, like all the saxophone, are pulled off with an incredible amount of finesse, and it's just a record that has a ton of character. If you want to hear a pop record with an old school vibe and a sharp eye for social satire and a good sense of humor, give this thing a shot. One of DFA Records' best releases in a while, this new Guerilla Toss record, is unfortunately going a little overlooked this year, in my opinion. The band has taken a while to really kind of appeal to me, personally. I've always thought that their recordings were just a little bit too brittle. Meanwhile, their performances and songwriting style, while freakish and very colorful, were just maybe too frantic and unkempt. But I feel like the band has finally channeled that oddity and that freakish side to their character into a series of tracks that are well performed, very steady, danceable, grooved out perfectly, celebrate the weirder side of post-punk and new wave and dance music in the 1980s. I'm hoping they stick with this sound, progress it, do more with it in the future, and that this record is just the tip of the iceberg of the band's potential past this point. Algiers, man. Like, one of the most interesting fusions of stylistic influences I've heard in a rock band in a while. And even more so on this new record. Like, there are elements of hip-hop, of gospel and soul, of blues, of post-punk and punk rock and goth rock on this new album over here, and they're all blended so well. And add on top of that there's also this incredibly bold and in-your-face and revolutionary political element to the lyrics. I just don't get why this band isn't resonating with more people. I mean, maybe it's not the right time, maybe people really don't want politics in their music as much as they want them in their Twitter feed. I don't know. For whatever reason, it's unfortunate that Algiers aren't turning more heads, especially since I hear so much raw talent in what the band is doing from a technical perspective too, the singing, the performances, the production. It's just kind of confusing because I feel like in 2017 we need a band like Algiers, and there are a lot of people out there who could probably use a band like Algiers, and yet their new album is just kind of falling on a lot of deaf ears. I present to you one of the funkiest albums of 2017, this new goddamn Ibibio Sound Machine album. This group is fusing elements of new wave and funk and post-punk with Afrobeat music and electro, and the sound, the end result, is just so fun and incredible. The production, the songwriting, the singing, everything that I thought that was great about the band's debut record is just improved so much more on this new album and has just grown into this colorful, kaleidoscopic, amazing, heart-pumping, multicultural display of what makes modern music so great. Listen to it, listen to it, listen to it, listen to it, listen to it. Yeah, Quelle Chris has a weird rap style that is not for everybody. It's true. It's very subtle, and his voice does have a weird timbre to it. However, I do think a lot of what he's saying on this record is interesting. I think this is one of his most thoughtful albums so far. It's a very introspective rap record. This is the kind of rap album that I feel like it's really kind of like you facing a mirror at yourself, and if you don't like introspective music, if you don't like music that sort of causes you to look inward and face yourself, then you're probably not gonna like this album. But for listeners who like abstract hip-hop, who are pretty patient with their rap music, and do like music that kind of challenges them on that personal level, then I think this record is certainly for you. I think this record is certainly worth your time, and I think there are a lot of people out there who most certainly would get something out of a record like this, but maybe this album just has not reached them for whatever reason. And if anything I've just said makes sense or appeals to you, give this thing a shot. I have not given this Motorpsycho album a fair shot, even though it seems like one of the most epic rock records of the year. It's 90 minutes, and it seems loaded from front to back with this good, hard rockin' and kind of blissful psychedelic rock and stoner rock. The band's been at it for years and years and years at this point. They sound pretty good for how long they've been at it, for the length of this record. Like, I feel like being at this stage in their career and dropping an album at this length could have gone very, very, very wrong. And this record seems pretty pleasing to older fans. However, I think it's newcomers that are kind of missing out a little bit. Even I myself took a while to kind of get this album into my ears, which I did only after the recommendation of somebody in an email. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to have the time between now and list week to fit it into my schedule, but I am glad I am aware and have heard at least a great deal of the album to kind of recommend it in this video. Shout out to Drag City for coming out with this experimental, weird, freaky, and beautiful folk record. But this is just one of those records in one of those discographies that comes from an artist or a group who's been releasing music for a while. You never quite cared for them, but then all of a sudden, new record drops, kind of a different, moodier, and I don't know, more avant-garde sound in a way, and for whatever reason, it just clicks. It's just compelling. I would say the heart of this album lies in its very skeletal and simple folk instrumentation and the hauntingly strange lead vocals that are laying onto every single track here, which, even if this doesn't end up being one of my favorite records of the year, will probably leave a bit of an imprint on me for the foreseeable future. And if you want this folk record to haunt you too, then give it a shot. Oh my god. Oh my god. I have to review this. I cannot not review this. This has to get reviewed. This is like one of the most beautiful things I've heard all year. What the hell? What the hell, guys? Seriously. What the hell? This is like... This is... What? 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 This is... What? 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 Are you serious? What? Rest in peace to Sean Price. Listen to this goddamn posthumous album. One of the grimiest dudes to ever do it. Listen to it. Shout out to Southern Lord for putting out this new Unsane album. I'm kind of saddened that this record didn't get more hype this year. I didn't even get a recommendation for this record this year. I don't recall, like, in my comments in my social media. I mean, it's probably there somewhere, but really, like, the requests for this must have just completely just vanished, or just been so few and far between. I didn't even notice that this album came out. But even though in a lot of ways this does sound like nearly every other album from these noise rock veterans, this is one of the slowest and sludgiest and heaviest records the band has ever released. So you can't really say the band isn't trying anything new on this record, or that they aren't, venturing out or doing something a little different. And just recommending this to make sure that people out there who are also interested in Unsane don't let this album slip by them. And finally, this record from this death metal band that I've only recently become aware of, Suffering Hour, is like 39 minutes of some of the most exciting death metal, black metal fusion that I've heard in a while. It's so lo-fi and grimy and dirty and nasty, but the performances are incredibly tight and propulsive and adrenaline pumping, but really it's the guitar work on this thing that kind of sells the album. Like, there's so much raw talent in the guitar playing on this thing, and not only is it very technical and occasionally very flashy, but also, like, some of the ideas that the guitarist pulls off on this thing are really noisy and wild and experimental and crazy, and it just adds so much flavor and character to otherwise very dingy and dark and decrepit music. Like, obviously in these genres of music, that's kind of something that you want, but the guitar playing and just, again, the wild and weird, totally unexpected experiments just add that extra bit of oomph, that extra little bit of flair that kind of just puts more gas on the flame. And that's it. Those have been 15 albums that I think have been vastly underappreciated and underrated this year. Thank you for watching. The reviews that I have done for some of these albums will be linked down there below. For the ones that I have not reviewed yet, hopefully, again, that happens sometime between now and the end of the year. Fingers crossed. And I will see you guys in the next video. Transition, have you given these albums a listen? Did you love them? Did you hate them? What would you rate them? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave an angry comment in the comments if you are angry, okay? Which I don't see why you would be. You're getting music recommendations. Just get recommended music and listen to it and enjoy it, okay? Over here next to my head is another video that you should check out, or you could rather click on the link to subscribe to the channel forever.